Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mental Health and Addiction Podcast. My name is Andy Bernstein, and I'm having mic problems, but bear with me. Today on the map, we are going to break down the healthcare quality improvement in marginalized communities that are seeking treatment for mental health addiction or for addiction and mental health. But before we get started, we got to do a roll call. And let's talk to our co-hosts. Let's meet Chris and Willie. Chris, who are you?
I'm a person. Yep, I'm a person. Chris Perry Long. I work for Aware Recovery Care. I'm a family educator. Addiction chose my family. I didn't choose to get into this field. And in this podcast, we talk about things that people don't want to talk about. Off to you, Willie.
Willie Drinkwater. I'm an educator for UMass Boston in the Addiction Counseling Education Program, where I specialize in addiction with co-occurring disorders, and I have a private practice that I run also. And previous life was with WBCN, The Rock in Boston, back in the wild 80s. So.
For the Big Mattress Crew.
The Big Mattress, Charles Laquadera and Billy West.
There you go. I'm Andy Bernstein. I am your moderator. I am a media guy. I've been working in radio and TV for a long time, and I, as well as cause marketing and working with different nonprofit organizations and causes, and the addiction crisis and mental health has been something that has really touched me. And I created with Chris and it's another colleague, we created the show The Map to try to help people bring awareness and to help end stigma and hopefully get people to seek help both personally and with a family member. So let's get started. I'm going to ask you guys a question. Uh-oh, right? Uh-oh is right. But before...
There we go.
No, this is important. No, okay. This is good. All right. So I'm going to tee this up, and I want to get your take on it. Do you believe that COVID-19 and the rise in addiction are connected? And if so, why?
Connected?
Mm-hmm. Is there a correlation in...
Well, I know we've seen a 10,000 person increase in overdose deaths during the COVID year. So, yeah, I would say that there can be a correlation.
I think the only correlation is that, yeah, the deaths are, it's like running a marathon. They're running who's going to have more deaths in a year.
Yeah. Suicides are up.
Suicides are up.
Overdose deaths are up. Yeah.
Accidental overdoses that aren't being recorded, people not going to treatment. Alcoholism is going up. Like, let's get real here. Like, we're kind of becoming the forgotten problem. We were getting all kinds of great resources and coverage and understanding and education out there, and then COVID hit and bam. So,
Yeah. And when COVID hit too, I think that we started to see a re-stigmatization of addiction and mental health too, as far as emergency rooms went, especially in the beginning of it.
Well, I think what's really scary, like right now, so down in Florida, there's over 1 million cases just in Florida with all these old people. And we were having a conversation with a healthcare provider yesterday, my parents and I.
Older people, by the way, older.
Old, dusty and crusty. Anyway.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm part of that group now. Come on.
But what we were saying is that there are no ICU beds. And down here in the hospitals in Florida, and it's happening at home too, back in Massachusetts, it's happening across the country. They're putting people, I would not want to have to be a doctor or a healthcare person right now, because they're having to decide who can live, who can make it, and who can't. Like, Can you imagine, like, this is going to have so many more repercussions that we're not even going to see right now. It's going to be like when people come back from the war and the PTSD sets in, and we think suicide rates have gone up now. Wait until like COVID is no longer, number 1, 2, and 3 in the news. That's when, the survival and all these stories are going to come out about how these families are affected. and those doctors and those nurses are going to be seeing those stories, and they're going to be able to relate, and they're not going to be able to cope because burnout is ridiculous. So it's
Oh, yeah.
very scary.
Well, the numbers are so high on with COVID deaths and people getting COVID that they don't pale in comparison to the overdoses don't pale into the comparison of COVID numbers. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. With California now is what? It's 1 in 5 people have it. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy. And actually, speaking of California, I was reading an article in the LA Times, which was published on January 15th, and they said that there was a study last month in JAMA, JAMA Psychiatry.
Journal of America. Yeah. The
Okay.
Journal of American. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and they found that overdose deaths seen by EMS during the height of the coronavirus restrictions were more than double the rate of the year before. And the numbers they just released by the CDC paint a similarly a chilling portrait. Overall, 2020 is on track to see about 40% more overdose deaths than in other recent years. And they're saying that the U.S. continues to address addiction as primarily a criminal justice issue, trying to stem the overdose crisis by punishing those who use and sell drugs. But with COVID running rampant in American jails and prisons, being incarcerated for possession can become a death sentence. And even without the pandemic, incarceration for drug offenses often does more harm than good. And they're saying that the risk of overdose increases dramatically post release from jail and prison. And so we're actually killing people by locking them up, which actually goes to the discussion we had last week with Amy.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and so, I think what we have to look at, so we have so much turmoil in the world right now, with the transition of presidents and all the stuff that has gone on with that. We're not getting political here. Everything else is a highlight, and we have really worked hard to break down that stigma of addiction. And I really feel like this is kind of bringing back the stigma, like it's going to be
How so?
Well, because people are like, so the stimulus, right? This extra $600. I've been working with detoxes, and these detoxes are like kids are AMAing left and right again.
We're getting another $1,400 if the bill passes on top of the $600. Yeah.
I mean, it's great for the people that need it, but I really think like our government really needs to revisit, who gets this. Like people that have child support don't get it. Like guys that own, families that owe child support, they're off the list. I think that if somebody is, I don't want to red flag them, I don't want to label them, but if they're like in active addiction, there's got to be some type of barrier that their loved ones can, hey, not right now, put it in the bank, save it for when they're well.
Gift cards. Gift cards.
Yeah, but gift cards they can still use.
Kidding. I'm kidding.
I know.
Yeah, $1,400 in gift cards too.
That's about 6 nails in a coffin.
I know. What are they gonna? How do they do that? How do they determine that? How they, at the risk of getting so invasive into people's lives, how do you do that?
You can't. But it's just, it's just one of those things that's like, it's really scary. It's really scary. Like that $600, people are AMAing out of programs left and right because to them, $600 is, a couple of nights of.
Well, the dealers are salivating about it.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, it's a shame that you couldn't, it would be probably too much organization wise to try to have it. So, the money goes directly, for your rent or directly to food. I mean, it's a tough call.
It's great. We got a lot going on here right now in the world. I mean, it is just
going to bring a lot more enlightenment to.
Yeah. So, good segue. Good segue, Chris. Hey. Okay. Let's meet today's guest, who is a colleague of Chris. He is on the front lines, like Chris, of addiction and fighting addiction and for healthcare quality for those struggling with addiction. So I'm going to let Chris do the honors. Who is our special guest today?
So Dennis is a coworker.
Dennis Leary. Can we mention his name? His last name?
Dennis Leary. Sorry, Dennis
Dennis
Leary.
L. Dennis L. Okay.
And he works in the Connecticut office. And Dennis is really working hard to advocate to bring treatment specifically for the LGBTQ communities. And he has a lot to say, and it's very interesting. I just heard him speak on another forum recently, and the statistics that he threw out just made my head spin. Like, it's, you know, I personally, and I've said this a million times, I don't understand how we as humans treat other humans. It just doesn't.
Or don't treat.
Or don't treat, exactly. So without further ado, good morning, Dennis. Oh, you're muted, buddy.
You got to put your mic on.
There you go.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I just want to say that I'm honored and privileged to be here. Hearing everything that everyone was just talking about was like hearing my own voice speak. Here in America, we look at addiction through, by and large, the moral model, which looks at addiction as a moral weakness and as a choice, and punishment is the preferred form of treatment, right? Lock them up and throw away the key, and you are a weak individual and addiction is a choice, when in fact it's been proven that it is a disease of the brain, and it affects the reward system and circuitry of the brain, and that treatment works, recovery is possible, people can go on to live fruitful and productive lives. I will say I am a living example of what recovery does. I have no problem with self-disclosure. I am somebody that had a formal 6th grade education, 48 felony convictions. 10 years ago, I spent 19 years of my life in the penitentiary on the installment plan. Never home for more than 3 months at a time, always going back away because I was poor and from the inner city, and I didn't have money for a lawyer. All of my crimes were possession of narcotics and then getting rearrested for violation of probation because the court system and the criminal justice system would always choose to give me probation or parole. And then I would come out and then continue to use substance abuse and continue to use substances and then reoffend for using drugs. And then they would put me back into the system, come out and give me more probation, never offered treatment, never offered any, help. And because I was poor and those types of options costed money. So, I was bullied for being gay because I was different. I was a little bit more feminine. And so until one time, I was 37 years old by this point, and I didn't even know that I didn't know there was another way to live. And so I got arrested for the umpteenth time, and I woke up in the middle of a bullpen after a weekend of an alcohol and drug infused fuel weekend. And
Right.
I just thought, like, what am I doing here? How could I have been here yet again? And I finally got a public defender that actually cared and advocated for me. And he got me a program called Drug Court. And he actually advocated to me not to take it. And he said, I can get you 2 years flat out in jail, or I can get you drug court. However, it's a very stringent program where you have to go to treatment, and you give a series of urines. And if you get one positive urine, they'll lock you up for 2 weeks. If you get 2 positive urines, they lock you up for 4 weeks. And on the 4th positive urine, they will give you a 7-year sentence. Based off of your track record, I would suggest you take the 2 years because I don't know that you'll make it. And I was just so tired. I said, give me that program. and the rest is history. Here I am. I got treatment. I got educated. I went back to school. I learned how to talk proper English. I learned how to write an email because I didn't even know how to use it. You got to figure the biggest stretch of my time was between 1999 and 2007. When I went in, they still had those big Motorola phones, and when I came out, they were on the iPhone 3. So like that break in time technology had increased, 100-fold. And so I learned, and now, while I'm certainly no tech genius, like I know my way around a computer. I know there's another way to live. Today I pay my taxes. That's huge. I own a home. I actually have 5 children. I'm a good father. I'm a productive member of society. I'm married. I'm a good role model. I'm a professional working to help others recover from addiction. I believe in this life because I know it works. I'm passionate about healthcare equity because I believe in quality access to care for those suffering from addiction and mental health. I've experienced what it's like to walk into a hospital and be treated poorly because I had state insurance or no insurance, right? As a gay male, I know what it's like to walk into a hospital and have that health screening and have a healthcare professional ask me if I was a male that had sex with males. And when I answered yes, have them put on 2 sets of gloves when they didn't do it to anybody else that was in that hospital getting triage. And these are the microaggressions that the LGBTQ community faces on a daily basis. I've walked into a primary healthcare organization. I apologize. I have dogs. They always choose to.
Mine's barking right now too. So
every
can't do anything without my dog barking. It's
It's my beautiful Rottweiler, Farrah Fawcett. I'm dating myself by her name. So that's what happens to both people that deal with substance abuse and mental health on a daily basis. We're marginalized. We're taught by the actions of others that we deserve to live on the fringes of society. We're taught that we're supposed to be treated that way. We are subjected to such harsh treatment that places that are traditionally not even thought of by mainstream society as safe are not safe for us. So schools. People generally just think of school as a safe place, but for people from these marginalized communities, we're bullied. We're taught that we don't belong. Churches. People go to church thinking that it's a loving, safe community, but from the pulpit, we're taught that we're an abomination. We don't belong there. We go to the hospitals and, we're treated like this. 50% of transgender individuals report that they won't go for primary health care, or they'll put off going to a doctor's because they've been mistreated, which means that they would rather stay in pain than get the health care that they need because of mistreatment. Most LGBTQ individuals won't report sexual or physical assaults to the police because of indifference or to helping them, or won't go to the hospital after being sexually assaulted because of lack of follow through on the healthcare providers. That's a travesty.
That's amazing. Can I back up for a second? Because this is unbelievable. I'm blown away based on what you were saying from your story and to where you are today. And it must have been obviously a very long journey for you. I'm like, you're living proof that recovery works and doing the work. You really are. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm hearing you speak. I would never guess in a million years your story. Where did you grow up, and what was it? How did this all start for you on, getting trapped in this world of addiction? How did it transpire?
I grew up in a town called Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Oh,
It's
I know
a
Bridgeport well.
yeah, yeah. It's a very urban town. Uh, as I mentioned, I come from a family of very limited means. Grew up on welfare. We grew up right next to this very infamous housing project called Father Panic Village, and urban blight. Um, and so in my neighborhood, there were three types of individuals. Two made it out or were able to make ends meet. Those were drug dealers, and those were sport people that were really good at sports and able to, get some form of scholarship or some, get drafted into professional sports. I'm clear. I'm not good at sports. That wasn't my thing. I was bullied at school, so I quit school in 6th grade. And then you could do two things. You could succeed and make it out, or you could succumb and become a product of your environment. And that was what happened to me. At 12 years old, at 7 years old, I was exposed to marijuana. And I began smoking marijuana at 7 years old. At 12 years old, I was exposed to cocaine and began sniffing cocaine because what I experienced was I was bullied mercilessly because I was different. And what I experienced was if I was around people that used narcotics, nobody cared that I was different if we were using because I could help fuel their drug use.
Dennis, did you know at 7 that you were gay?
I knew something was wrong. I'm not wrong. I knew that something was different. And you can see right now the first thought process was that something was wrong because it's not wrong, but that was built into my psychological being. So my first experience of knowing that I was different was telling my older sister that I thought Fonzie from Happy Days was cute, and she smacked me in my face and said, "Only faggots say that." And so,
Who doesn't think Fonzie was cute? I think that's universal. I mean,
yeah. But so that was my first experience, and I didn't even know what quote unquote a faggot was, but I knew if it got me smacked that I didn't want to be it, that I didn't want to be that. And so I knew that I thought boys were cute, but I didn't know what that meant. And I was always like, I didn't know what attraction meant that at that age, but I do know that like traditionally when boys pick on girls in the playground, like I picked on other little boys, I would push them and things of that nature. So on some level, I always knew. However, especially in an urban setting, I mean, that's the only point of reference that I have. That type of thing wasn't really looked favorably upon, and that definition of masculinity in those types of settings is criminal behavior. So I began stealing bikes at a very young age. I began stealing cars
to prove yourself.
Yeah, exactly, to show that I wasn't gay. To show that I could hang with a tough crowd. I dabbled in selling drugs, but just used my product more than I sold. I was a poor drug dealer because I was my own best customer. I've been through the gamut. I've been shot. I've been stabbed. I've been, pistol whipped. I've been through the whole gamut with all that stuff. I've been very close to death many times, which goes to show me that there is some form of divine power out there, because it is only by the grace of that I am still here. I mean, I've been in situations where guns have been put in my mouth and cocked back, and like, I'm still here. And I'm also like not some form of psychopath or don't have some form of major personality disorder or anything like that. So I'm able, like, I have cognitive functioning abilities, and I'm actually, a certified addictions counselor en route to like get a master's degree in clinical therapy. So I'm going to be able to like treat those disorders And I always thought, and I was taught and told that I was going to be nothing and that I was stupid. And like, I know differently today. I know that I'm actually quite smart, and I was never given access to resources to know that I was. And so my passion is to work with and to help others realize their full potential. But to get back to what your question was, so I was exposed to crack cocaine at 15, and that was really my downfall. I fell in love with crack cocaine from the first time I used it, and that began a lifetime of destruction. Like I was of the age, like I was around when the crack epidemic hit in the 80s, and I began a lifetime of crack use from 15 to 37. And because of the crack use, like I never really held down a job. I began shoplifting to support the crack habit from that age all the way through 37, and was in and out of prison with 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 90-day, 6-month sentences all the way. I was never, so from the age of when I started to be able to go to jail right at 16, I was never home for more than 6 months from the age of 16 to 37.
Was there and I'll let you guys chime in too, Chris and Willie, because was there when did the light bulb go off for you? You know, when did you decide, you know what, I'm tired, I don't want to do this anymore? Was it you addressed was there co-occurring disorders, which those guys know more about than I do, but
Just like to use big words.
that's right, pretend like I know what I'm talking about. And I know enough to be dangerous, though. But was there a co-occurring disorder? Did you treat things like, you know, because it sounds incredible, but I'm trying to figure out where the how did you pull yourself out? How did it change for you? What was there a defining
Turning point?
What's up? Yeah.
Turning point, yeah.
Yeah, right. So there's definitely some, a person doesn't spend, 20 plus years utilizing poison to their system as a, unless there's some form of something going on, right? So there's, definitely. So I grew up with a very traumatic childhood, right? There was a lot of things going on, both with family, both with some external things happening. All as I said, I've been shot, I've been stabbed. Those are traumatic events. Fortunately, as a coping mechanism, I was able to really compartmentalize those things, because I was also like homeless as a youth. My family wasn't able to deal with the fact that I was gay when I came out, and as a result, I was homeless for many years. Which, an interesting statistic: out of all homeless youth, 40% are gay and lesbian because their families threw them out, and that's a pretty big statistic. And so, which ironically, of that 40%, not to go off on a tangent, of that 40%, 1 in 3 will be approached by a trafficker for human trafficking purposes within 48 hours of leaving home. And
Does that happen, Dennis?
Many ways. Human traffickers will stake out at known places for runaway places like the Chelsea Piers, which is a well-known place in New York City for LGBTQ homeless youth to run away to. They stake out bus depots, places where that might offer shelter. They also utilize social media as a method to lure people in. Some other interesting facts are a great deal of not just LGBTQ youth, but youth in general. A majority of human trafficked youth are former foster care youth, because these children are often behaviorally challenged youth that are very fragile and very marginalized. So they've been abused at home, or they have former sexual abuse path. They are either mentally challenged or behaviorally challenged, and they're not wanted, or they feel like they're not wanted, and they run away. And these traffickers prey on that, and they offer a sense of like, I'm going to care about you. They really, a predator can sense weakness. A predator can sense when somebody, has these types of issues, and they offer a sense of caring. Now, when somebody runs away from home, things have to be bad, because a kid will run back home from foster care from a 4-poster bed in a suburban community in a really nice home to mom's house in the urbanized setting to a mattress on the floor because they love their family. So for a child to run away from that, it's got to be bad, right? Things have to be really bad. And so the family bond, the bond that's a child has with their mother and father and siblings, is missing. And everybody wants that. So that person plays on that and says that, tells them they're going to give that to them. They might buy them some outfits and some sneakers. Nobody's ever done that before. Mm-hmm. They might give them a hug. They might give them a kiss, take them out, buy them something to eat. And this kid might never have been
vulnerable. You're vulnerable at the time.
Yeah.
So not to like redirect, but.
Are you a lawyer?
No, but my brain always is like spinning, right?
Yes.
So with the overdoses, fatal overdoses that we have.
They've been up 17% this year since COVID, by the way.
Okay.
17%.
Over last year.
Well, here's my thing, right? So I am a parent that raised my grandchildren, right? And we have all these kids that have been left behind. Are we going to see an increase in young adult trafficking?
So from what I know about trafficking, and I just want to say that I am by no means an expert, right? I'm versed, but not an expert. And what I know is pretty much limited to general statistics, specific to LGBTQ youth, right? What I can say is this, and I have some basic statistics here. So let's talk to the audience a little bit about what human trafficking is. I'm an educator by nature, so I want to make sure people know what human trafficking can be looked at as, right? So it's forced labor, it can be marriage, it can be sex work, and even organ removal, right? Human trafficking is of persons. It's referred to as modern slavery, human trafficking of persons, and human trafficking in general. Those are the terms that the U.S. Department of State all accept. Internationally, it's estimated 20 to 40 million people are victims of human trafficking a year. The actual
We're in the U.S. or worldwide?
Yeah, worldwide, internationally.
Okay.
And so it's hard to get 50,000 in the U.S. is the estimated number. It's hard to really gauge what the actual number is because so many cases go unreported. Right? The United Nations refers to that as the hidden number of crime. And so it's big business, right? There's $150 billion made from human trafficking a year. I mean,
wow.
Yeah. Let's just take a moment and think of that number. $150 billion. Now,
wait. So I'm assuming that this is taking place. Don't think I'm letting you off the hook about your defining moment either.
No,
but
fine.
Okay. But so this is across the country, right? So these are in cities everywhere around the country, or is it centralized to one particular location that is
Right. So it's nationwide, but there are hot spots. The three biggest hot spots for human trafficking in the United States are California, New York, Texas, and Florida.
Of course, Florida's got to be in the mix.
Yeah, yeah. And the two biggest countries that those individuals come from are Mexico and Thailand. And again, it's poor people that this happens to. This doesn't happen to affluent individuals. I'm not going to say ever or never. I'm sure there's rare cases of kidnapping, but this happens to poor people. This happens to marginalized communities. This happens to runaways. This happens to people that might be looking for a better life and are told, like, if you come over here. I mean, let's remember, human trafficking also consists of forced labor, forced begging, forced marriage. If you come to the United States, you have to give up a kidney. And these are people that are, it makes me so sad, and I'm so passionate about this, so excuse me, somebody looking for a better life. The mother that wants to send money back home to Mexico for her kids. The young girl who thinks that, this is America is the land of opportunity. So she wants to come here to make a better life for herself, because that's what she's heard, and this is what happens. Just to get back to put it a little bit in perspective. So $150 billion is made from this a year. 99 billion of that 150 billion is from the sex trade. 71% of the population is women and girls.
Who would probably come from
boys.
From situations where, maybe the, there wasn't a father around, or the they didn't have positive body images, or abuse. So then, right, is that kind of the?
So Dennis, do you have any type of statistics of like how many people? So we always hear, like, we work, right? And I'm really, you too, I'm sure, not to single you out, Andy, but we hear about people that, like, traded sex for drugs, right? For whatever. And then somehow, like, the pimp, right? The pimp pimps them out, but they also, like, and gives them just enough to get by. And they're not, this isn't like the movies, right? Where, they're living high and mighty, and they're being well taken care of, and they're getting massages and body waxes. And it's not like that.
So I don't have firm numbers on that. What I do know is that a lot of times, in particular in Mexico, a lot of times what ends up happening is the individuals that are coming across, like the individuals that are being trafficked across from Mexico into the United States, that heroin is a big problem, where they get the
dreamland. Right?
Yeah, they get the individual addicted to heroin, and then they're put into, like, really awful, for lack of a better term, like shanties, these houses that have, like, just curtains drawn across the rooms, and just over and over and over again, these girls are just, like, drugged out, and
made to service.
Men come in and out, and they're just they're like
It's a brothel.
But worse than a brothel, because these girls are just over and over and over through the course of the day, and, like, it's effectively just raped over and over and over, because they're knotted out all day long. This happens.
Andy, I mean, just to cite a case, as a therapist myself, I mean, I know on the North Shore here, there's actually a woman's safe house. Another area that may be flying under the radar is a hotspot, but northern Maine, Aroostook County, Maine, there's a sex trafficking trade. It comes in from Quebec into northern Maine, and then it makes its way down to Boston. I actually worked with a woman where it was a case of where, she was an active addict, and long story short, she was handcuffed to a bed and just made, she was just servicing men all day long and stuff. So, I mean,
it was so.
and that's fine under the, it's northern Maine. It's from Quebec into northern Maine. Then it's way down to Boston.
Blown away by this, right?
It's so sad. It's so sad that we treat humans and we tolerate it.
So I want to. So I read a book called Dreamland by Sam Quinones, and he talked about black tar heroines coming up through Mexico, and they're setting up these stores like tiendas in different communities that are black tar heroin. For they wouldn't go to Boston, but they would go to Providence because Providence has is a smaller city, and they wouldn't have to battle with gangs and things like that. It gives them, they have more of an opportunity to do business with that, and they'll go to like methadone clinics and try to recruit people.
Yeah. No, just as a side note, Andy, too, with black tar heroin, there's more likelihood of abscesses and infections and everything else.
It's crazy. So basically, if I understand this, so sex trafficking is being run by, so you're saying people in Mexico, coming from Mexico, if I understand correctly, and they're bringing black tar heroin in. Is that accurate?
I think Dennis is. Oh, there you are.
I was just wanting to make sure you were asking me. So the answer to that question is yes to both, right? So Mexico is the biggest importer of both of those. Is the biggest importer of both of those things. The Philippines is also the other known importer, one of the biggest importers of sex trafficking. One of the other things that I just wanted to touch base on, and this goes to one of the questions that you asked earlier, Chris, in terms of sex work. The Polaris Project had performed a study and found that LGBTQ youth was 7.4 times more likely to experience sexual violence than their heterosexual counterparts, and found that the trans individuals were 56% of transgender youth was involved in the sex trade, that they were sex workers.
Wow.
Nobody and why do you think this is not being on the national agenda? It doesn't seem like people aren't really talking about it.
Nobody talks about
it.
Why? Because
uncomfortable.
One, it's uncomfortable.
Chris.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, right? Two, it's a marginalized community. These kids are poor, right? So I want you to think, it doesn't get talked about for the same reason OxyContin didn't get talked about till like a senator's kid overdosed from it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's the same reason that, I don't want to stir any pots here. Right. I don't want to.
Stir away. I love it.
Okay. So when Amber Lynn from Westport, Connecticut gets abducted, it's on the front page of every news. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When Shaniqua Jones from Bridgeport gets abducted, it doesn't make a blip on the radar.
Yeah, no one cares. People don't care
because she's a little brown girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
When a Caucasian girl from an affluent neighborhood, when gets raped, like, oh my God, it's nationwide news, right?
Right.
But when that happens in an inner city, nobody cares. It doesn't. Nothing happens, and like that's awful.
So for you, right, being a white guy coming from a urban setting, you're actually able to, so it's really probably a calling for you to really be able to speak to this because you have an advantage over Shaniqua Jones because you can actually bring this more to light than somebody.
I think maybe growing up, I never experienced what is referred to as white privilege, right? So I was a I was what I was, I was just as poor as the individuals from my surroundings. So when to this day, probably the only experience of white privilege I've ever had, but then it turns bad, is generally like if I get pulled over at a traffic stop, when the police officer comes over, they're always very nice. I pulled you over because you ran a red light. May I please have your license, registration, and insurance? And then I give them that. When they come back, they have their hand on their gun and they say, Miss O'Leary, do you have, because they've run my license, they see my history. Do you have any drugs, knives, or weapons in the car? Without a fail. You know what I mean? My answer to that is because I know like my rights now, either you give me a ticket or you let me go. Because I have the money to pay the ticket now. You know what I mean? And no, I don't have anything in here.
How does that happen? Like how many years?
It's been since 2012 was my last interaction with the law.
Wow.
And so, and so my answer to them now is like, you can either give me a ticket or you can let me go, but I'm not going to let you stand here and harass me. You're not going to do that to me. Not today. Not today. You're not going to do that to me. And so like don't get me wrong, I have tremendous respect for our law enforcement field because like with anything, you're going to have good and you're going to have bad, right? But regardless if the law enforcement is, a positive member or a not so positive member of the law enforcement field, I'm a responsible tax-paying member of my community and I don't have to answer that question. I don't have to answer that question. You pulled me over for running a red light. I've given you my license and registration. Give me my ticket, warning, or let me go. If those are your options. I'm not answering anything else.
That's insane. Yeah. I have a semi-automatic weapon underneath my seat. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, exactly. Like if I had that, I'm going to tell you.
Like, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I have an ounce of crack cocaine underneath my seat. Would you like me to turn that over to you?
I bought my trunk. I got like 4 kilos. Let's go. Like
4 keys.
Okay.
How did that happen?
You guys are playing in my ADD left and right. I'm all over the place.
Before we have to go, Dennis.
We're not leaving yet.
No, I know, but before we do, because Dennis will have some more information and we'll go in like 10 minutes. Can you share about what you're doing and how you are helping the LGBTQT communities with mental health and substance use? How you're trying to help them?
Right. So I'm doing a few different things, right? So part of my job at Aware Recovery here is one, just bringing awareness to the program. So I am going out into the community. I am meeting with organizations that do not know that we exist. And I am also meeting with charitable organizations that to try to create a fund for individuals that may not have access to care. I am going out, Pride isn't yet, but I'm trying to take a proactive event for Pride. So like Aware can sponsor like Know Your Status. I think it's so important for our LGBTQ youth and adult to know their HIV status. There's some things in the works that I can't really speak to, but some research studies that are going to be going on, that announcements will be made about. They're still in the very early stages, so I can't really speak to that. But some really strong and positive partnerships that I would love to come back and talk about.
Of course.
When they become more when they're more solidified. So like one thing that I just went to do is talk to an LGBTQ specific primary health care practice, and I'm trying to partner with them to set up a mutual referral. So I go out into the community and talk about how like to become a resource for individuals that are suffering from substance abuse and comorbid mental health issues, on how we can be a resource for them and create access to treatment for those individuals. So the great thing about this is Aware Recovery Care is a program that age, gender, and story matches every client to their care team. So in addition to giving care to these individuals, I'm also creating jobs for that same community, because the more individuals that we're providing care for, the more jobs we're going to have to create, because we age, gender, story match. So now,
What does that look like? So explain that a little bit more, because I know what you're saying. So we are working on expanding our team.
so we're having a specialized track created
Correct.
just for LG. So I wanna preface this by saying, so we are a no wrong door agency. Anybody for anything can come and knock on our door, and we will source appropriate treatment for that person, whether they come to our agency or not. And so we have different specialized tracks within our program for first responders, for adolescents, for LGBTQ plus individuals, right? So everybody that comes to our program will have team members that have walked the path of what that individual has gone through and have come out on the other side. So if a person has a first responder background, they're going to get a team member. They're going to get a team that has first responders on that team. If that person is an adolescent, we can't employ adolescents, but we can get people that are younger and have had a history as an adolescent come out the other side. So now my particular passion is the LGBTQ plus community. So if their team is going to consist of someone that's identifies as being part of the LGBTQ plus community. So the more individuals, like any company, as something scales and grows, they have to hire. So if the more individuals that are coming into our program from the LGBTQ community, we're going to need to hire more individuals from the LGBTQ community to help those same individuals. So we'll be creating jobs as well as helping people. So it's kind of a synergistic type of thing, because we're creating jobs to help people and we're helping people.
This is phenomenal. Just to go back up, so I still want to hear about kind of your defining moment, because I think it's important, because the story is of how you got to where you are today, in the place you are, and what kind of, like I said, what was the trigger that got you on this path?
Yes. So just to back up a little bit, I was a person also that I didn't even know how to talk proper English. Every other word was the F-bomb or some form of expletive. I didn't broken English. And I woke up in a bullpen, and I just remember being surrounded by individuals that had also been arrested, and it was loud, and I was in a bullpen which was underneath the courthouse, and I remember looking out at the bars at being in a cage, and I felt like I was in a zoo. It was loud, people were yelling, people were screaming, and I just said, I can't do this. So I was in pain, and pain can be a powerful motivator, whether it be emotional or physical. Think about if you're sitting and the position you're in is really uncomfortable, you're going to move to get yourself comfortable. And so I was in such emotional pain. I had caused myself wreckage. I had been homeless at the time. I had a big spider bite on my arm. I was in physical pain. I was in emotional pain. I said to myself, this is it. This is the last time. I remember praying to God for the upteenth time. And I said, God, if you can get me out of this mess, I will get sober and I will get my life right. And so I did a lot of legwork I did that program. I went to the program. When I got done with the program, I had a choice. I could go back home to my mother's house, which was very dysfunctional, or I could have went to this transitional living center, which kicked you out at 7:00 and you had to be in the house, rain, sleet, snow, or shine, and it was the middle of winter. They put you out at 7:00. You had to be in at 3:00. And that I was so miserable there that it made me save all my money to get to the next step to get to a sober house. And then it was just a lot of work from there, but I did the groundwork, and I'm so grateful for that because it taught me structure. And then I read books insatiably to get better language. And then, the gifts of sobriety just started. And, I got a job as a telemarketer. That was miserable. So it made me want to get a better job. And then slowly but surely, then I started thinking, like, what do I want to do with my life? And I started getting jobs that were better and better. And then, I had always waited tables. Everybody was saying, don't go back to that because it puts your sobriety at a risk. And then, but like, waiting tables give somebody the opportunity to make a really decent wage without, I wasn't going to make a livable wage at Walmart. Like I couldn't do that, right? And so I got a job at restaurants, then better restaurants, then better restaurants. And that gave me the ability to put myself through school without loans, up to the point of an associate's degree at least. And so, and then I decided that what did I want my legacy to be? Did I want to sell a $700 bottle of wine to a person with a really great state? Or did I want to save lives? And to me, saving lives was much more appealing than selling the bottle of wine. And so I got a job I went through school, and then I got a job at like a non-for-profit. And then I heard about Aware, which is a really revolutionary model delivering care in home. And then I got a job at Aware as direct care. And like, I think about my trajectory now, and I am someone that was written off by society as a career criminal, and I'm an executive today.
What an amazing. Did you come from a family? Was it your mom and dad, or was it just your mom?
My dad had schizophrenia.
Okay.
And my dad had a little bit of everything. He was like a smorgasbord of mental illness, and
right. A poo-poo platter.
Yeah, yes, he was. That's a great analogy. I love it. He was a poo-poo platter of mental illness.
Yeah.
And but it didn't come out till later in life, in his 30s. And my parents got divorced, and our house got foreclosed on. My mother went on welfare, and so my mother was a single mother. My mother worked as a diner waitress. Her shift was 4:00 in the afternoon to 4:00 in the morning. So I was primarily raised by my older sister, who was 9 years older and also a substance. She was the one that exposed me to marijuana at 7 years old. And so I won't go into too much detail, but I was human trafficked as well. And it was a family member, right? So
you have been through the wars.
That's when I say, like, I had really, I was dealt a raw hand, a bad deck of cards, but like I played it, right? But you know what? I'll tell you this: I wouldn't change one thing about what happened to me, because it dealt me the resilience and it dealt me the character strength to be who I am today. And I feel like everything that I've been through helped give me a very rich and colorful history, and helped me be able to empathize and to be able to make me a really caring and compassionate person, and to really know, because my story is nothing unique. My story is the story of millions of people that are out there, and the difference is I have a platform to tell it.
Right.
There's millions of people that don't have the platform to tell it.
Yeah.
And so I feel fortunate. I feel fortunate that I'm still alive and I'm still here. and I can be an advocate and a voice for millions of people that don't have that platform.
Clean living.
And you know what? I am only here and I am only able to interact with you wonderful people because of recovery. Recovery did it. Recovery works. I'm
Yeah.
living proof of that.
That is amazing. If people want to get in touch with you, thank you for sharing your stories. It's so inspiring because it's really unbelievable.
And I don't know. So like after this, I know the recording gets uploaded, correct?
Yes, we will send it to you.
Yeah, and please don't hesitate. Chris, you can do this. Please don't hesitate to put both my email and my phone number in the description. And if anybody that listens to this needs help themselves, or if they know somebody that needs help, please call or email me. I am happy to direct you to a phone number, an
Resources.
agency, give you resources that can help you. That's what I do. I'm passionate about it, and
Aware allows us to follow our passions.
yes.
What a great
Cool.
group. Willie,
Yes.
thank you, Dennis. And
And I'm connected nationwide.
we want to have you back.
So yeah, I can get you a resource anywhere.
We definitely want to have you back. Closing. So thank you, Willie, Chris. Any closing thoughts?
I just want to say, Dennis, like I didn't really know your whole story, and we've been working together for a little bit now. But wow, and thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for being willing to share your story with the rest of us, because you know as well as I know that your story is going to empower one person or maybe more people to take that first step to ask for help. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Willie. What say you?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I mean, when I first heard your name, I was going, Dennis Leary? What, we're going to have
Rescue
Dennis
me?
Leary on today?
Rescue me? Rescue me?
Exactly, but
I get
Dennis,
it all the time. I just wish I had his money.
I know, but with
Right.
Dennis Leary, though, Dennis is with one end because he had to be different,
Yeah.
But thank you very, very much for
My
coming
pleasure.
on.
Very powerful, and thank you. And that's our show for the week. And thanks to Mike Weber back at Mission Control,
Thanks, Mikey.
Thanks,
Foxboro Cable Access Television, and thanks to Willie Drinkwater, Chris Long, Kristen Perry Long, and the aforementioned Dennis Leary. You've been listening to The Map, and we will catch you next week.
Thank
Have a great
you.
week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.